Good morning. This is the JP Dinnell Podcast, episode 130. I am JP Dinnell, and as always, I have Lucas with me. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing fantastic, dude. It is good to be back for episode 130. I cannot
Kind of
believe we've
crazy.
reached, yeah, what a
I had,
freaking milestone, you know?
it's funny, like when you said, "Is this 130?" and I said, "Yeah," because I was like typing it up in the notes earlier, and I don't know why that number just seems pretty legit. Obviously, episode 100 was really cool. When we hit 1 year, that was cool, and I don't know. I'm just grateful to do what we do, and let's go ahead and jump into some Q&A, my man.
Let's do it. I think this one is applicable based on our pre-show conversation. How do you
Mhm.
eat healthy when you're on the road?
Mm.
Somebody's
Yeah.
traveled a lot. They want to maintain good nutrition. How do you do that whenever you're traveling?
I think I like the timing of this as um, I'm working on being more intentional with eating good on the road. I mean, I like to eat, and I lack discipline in that. It always comes in waves for me, unfortunately. But it's one of the things I'm working on, being more mindful and just understanding. What Jonathan and Ann talk about at first in nutrition, and there's the things that my parents taught us when we were kids, and when I was in the SEAL teams prepping for, different things, when I was training for MMA fights and had to cut weight. It's for me, it's all about intentionality. And I know I've said this before, intentionality and intensity is a choice. And so when you're on the road, it's just planning it out a little bit more in advance, being a little more disciplined and thinking, okay, hey, this is where I'm staying. Pull up the hotel on your map, in Google Maps or Apple Maps or whatever you use, and search the area for restaurants, and then just know that you have these good options. Chipotle is always an easy one. I know Cody eats Chipotle all the time, and you can obviously eat like like a jerk. um, at Chipotle, and it's not going to be the healthiest, but you can also eat pretty healthy at Chipotle. Um, for me, Chipotle is a go-to. Also, if I have to, like if I just need like some calories, I need some protein. I know it's not the best, but it's also not the worst. And I've done it when I'm like cutting weight, and I've had good results with it. Is the grilled chicken from Chick-fil-A. Get 2
Mhm.
grilled chicken breasts from Chick-fil-A, and that's good to go. If you wanna throw some cheese on there, awesome. But at the end of the day, if you're tracking what you're eating, I can eat a grilled chicken sandwich from Chick-fil-A and still hit my macro goals, still hit my calorie goals, most importantly, hit my protein goals and be good to go. But um if I'm not thinking about it, if I'm not intentional, if I'm not tracking, that's when I fall off the path. Also, I know some of the instructors will do this. We'll find like a Whole Foods or like a Target close to the hotel and just go grab some protein and some Greek yogurts, and so that way you have those in the morning and at night. Getting protein drinks while you're on the road, finding a vitamin shop, go grab a couple bulks. That way you have one or two of those before bed, and then 1 to 2 in the morning when you wake up, and you're going to be good to go. So it's not so much like there isn't no like hack or secret to it. It's just intentionality and just being disciplined and thinking about it and plan it. And for me, I need to have it like in my schedule and plan through it. So I just got done working out, and I knew we are getting ready to record, and I hadn't eaten, and so I wanted to eat something. And I knew that the restaurant bar at the hotel I'm staying at didn't have a lot of solid selections. And so before I walked back over here, because I was like, all right, well, I'll just grab a couple of protein drinks and some fruit, and I'll eat that and just call it a night. But I felt like I needed a little bit more in me after that workout, and I wanted to definitely hit my protein goal for the day. And so I just looked at the menu at that other hotel's restaurant bar, and they had a 12-ounce sirloin. They had wild rice and asparagus, and so that's what I ate tonight was a 12-ounce sirloin, some wild rice, asparagus, and, I have a protein drink that I'll drink after this before I go to bed, and I'll be good where I'm at.
That kinda gets me to the next thing, and these questions sort of go hand in hand because we do whether it's us getting it online, you guys getting the question at the muster or whatever, it comes down to like, all right, how do you eat healthy on the road? And then the second one is like it is the how do you maintain your your fitness on the road? Because not every hotel has a good hotel gym that you
Yeah,
can go to. You
nope.
know, you mentioned you went there. So how do you maintain your fitness whenever you're traveling?
Well, I looked at so the hotel I'm staying at, they're renovating the gym, and so they gave us a hotel key to the hotel across the street to be able to have access to the gym. And so I got on Google, pulled up that pulled up that hotel, looked at pictures of the gym, and I was like, "Oh, this will be good enough. This will be good for what I need." And it actually turned out I made a social media post about it earlier. It was not a bad hotel gym. And so for me, I was able to get the work in for what I wanted to do today. The other thing is, again, being a little disciplined. Being willing to jump in your rental car and drive 10, 15 minutes and go buy a day pass at a gym. Most gyms, if you tell them, "Hey, I'm on the road traveling for work. Do you guys give guest pass?" It's like 5, 10, $15. I mean, it's very rare that it's even $15. Most of the time, it's like 5 or $10. And I would say a handful of times they'll just be like, "Hey, don't worry about it. Just sign the waiver and you'll be able to work out for free." So that's always an option. It's just about making it a part of your day. Again, being disciplined, putting it into your calendar, your schedule, and saying, "Hey, this is a non-negotiable for me." Also, at the end of the day, you can do a workout in your hotel room. You can do a muster style workout where you're doing an EMOM every minute on the minute for 30 minutes. Pick five different exercises and do that 6 rounds, or six different exercises and do that 5 rounds. At the end of the day, you can definitely get the work in. Going for a walk, go for a jog. I've done this before where the hotel I had was both the treadmills were down because I wanted to walk on an incline and get some incline work in. They had no dumbbells and just like some machines that I was not going to use or work out on. And
Yeah.
so I just hit the stairwell. And so for 30 minutes, I just would jog up the stairs, walk down, jog up, walk down, jog up, walk down, do a few sprint intervals. And 30 minutes of that will definitely get the work in. I mean, there's no reason why you can't work out on the road. I know I have lacked discipline of that, but it was never because like, oh, I can't get anything done. You do again a muster style workout in your hotel room. You can do the stairs at your hotel. You can go for a walk outside. You can go for a jog. Okay, it's super cold. Hit the stairwell. You don't want to hit the stairwell? Do push ups, squats, flutter kicks, sit ups, burpees, jumping jacks, lunges, hollow rocks. Um, there's a lot of arm circles, shadow box in your hotel room. You can get the work in for sure. I like, because I know Cody does this and so does Matt Hasby. They go find gyms, and I've been starting to do that more myself. I like it because it breaks up the monotony of being in a hotel room. Everyone's
Mhm.
like, "Oh, you travel all the time. It must be awesome." One, I don't see the cities for the most part. It's airport, rental car, or Uber, head to the hotel, prep, knock out work, catch up on emails, do whatever, and then knock out a hotel workout, Uber eat some food or go grab some food. And that's the other thing. You can Uber eat some decently healthy food if you had to. Um, and then go to bed and wake up and speak and head to the airport and head to the next event. So um, I like I've been liking more doing what Cody and Hasby do of getting and I think Rob Jones doesn't do it as much because once he's at a hotel, just because he likes to stay put, I think. Um, but uh, breaking it up and getting out of the hotel and go knock out a workout for a little reset and then coming back, I think is also very beneficial.
Yeah, one of the things I've enjoyed in traveling is going to, some of those public parks that
Oh yeah,
have, like, the workout stuff. I know that it's not always, like, feasible, but, because a lot of times those places are shut down or difficult to get to, if it's late in the evening or whatever, but some of those, you talk about breaking up the
uh-huh,
monotony of the workout, right? The, the little, pull-up bars at the different levels, but then also the dips and stuff like that that you're, like,
yeah,
forced to do whenever you're in those situations is definitely something that causes you to bust out of the norm. And I think
yeah,
that, those things in general help us to cultivate kind of bits of creativity that we otherwise, might not be doing. Well, because there is a certain amount of what, like when you travel, what you do that is the same, right? Even though
uh,
each company is unique, every place is individual. I was talking with a good buddy of mine who does training for automotive diesel repair stuff, and
yeah.
he's doing the same training at every place, but the Q&As are markedly different, and he's having to look for ways to kind of create that creativity. So that would be one of the other questions I would ask is like, how do you maintain a fresh approach when, even though you're dealing with a new company, new people, new clients that have new issues, so much of what you're doing is the same as far as like, here's our rubric for analyzing people's problems. These are the things that we teach. Like, how do you keep that fresh and creative?
Well, before I do an event, I do a pre-event call with that client, and so in that pre-event call, I am asking them what are some of the struggles that first off, I ask them like, okay, hey, let's verify how many people are going to be there and explain to me the different types of people there that are going to be there. Like, what are their positions in the company? Um, what are some of their struggles at the different levels? What do they do well? And then I always ask them if if you could have a majority of the people leave the training with 1 to 2 takeaways that they could implement, and that would be a success for you, what does that look like? And so I'll review that before the event. Like tonight, I'm going to review my notes again, even though this group is the same group that I worked with last month. There's still some, slight shifts and changes in the organization. I'll do a little bit of research on that company and the market and the industry, who their competitors are. And then the morning of, I go through that all again. And my goal is as I'm speaking and talking about the Bauer Ramadi, the laws of combat, the mindsets for victory, doing our implementation, doing the balance assessment, doing some of the different hands on exercises that we do, whatever module that I'm doing. Like tomorrow, uh, Hasby and I are working with two different groups in two different locations with this company. And for this iteration, we're going to be going through some of our communication training modules. And I will just tie in stuff that's specific to what I've talked to their leadership about, my last interactions with the group. And then, because I do notes after events, I will make modifications to the slide decks based off of what we did, what we're going to do, and then I just make it a point to have specific talking points based off of that group. Um, whether it's my first time, second time, 15th time working with them, whatever they're currently working through and trying to navigate, I will then um, told different stories, give different examples that can connect to that, and then we do a lot of Q and we have a lot of roundtable discussions and group discussions and sharing amongst the groups, and then hey, what was the commonality in this group, and have them share. And, that's the way I like to do it. And I know a lot of the other instructors. So it's a lot of interaction. And part of what, part of what we do is we're not just speaking off of a PowerPoint slide and be like, as you can see on this next slide, line number two, like we're actually talking and teaching, but we're also listening and having interactions with the attendees to help them navigate problems. And so I think for me, that's always keeping it fresh.
And those things like that are, the little detailed things which we've talked about time and time and time again are the things that really make the difference whenever you're not just like having interactions with clients, but whenever you're leading in general, is those are the things that, separate
Yeah,
the
echelon front
elite
from everybody
level.
else.
Yeah, 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 right? Like the elite level leaders from the people who just do it well, right? Which, you talk about the things that separate echelon front from everybody else, and one of those things that has come up time and time again, whether it's in the books, Extreme Ownership, Dichotomy of Leadership, Need to Lead, any of those things, or in the Extreme Ownership Academy calls on Wednesday, whether it's the stuff that you guys talk about at the Muster, our podcast, Jocko's podcast, is you guys are really forthcoming with your mistakes
Mm.
and how so many of the leadership lessons you've learned have come from those mistakes. And tonight, one of the questions that we got, and we saved this one from, the list of questions we got from Reddit. Um, is what's the biggest leadership mistake that you've made in your career?
Mm.
Nice, easy question.
Yeah, no, that's a
Uh,
really good question. Um, Man, I mean, there's a good amount of them. Obviously, when I was younger in the teams, getting in trouble, getting arrested for fighting out in town was a mistake. And you're in the teams, and hey, things happen, and you can justify all you want. Of well, hey, I was defending myself, or I was defending my friends. But at the end of the day, like I mean, as I think back on those, like I could have walked away. It was my ego getting in the way. Like I had to fight. That was a few times like guys put their hands on me or my buddies unprovoked, and at that point, it's like, all right, cool. You have to engage and de-escalate. Um, but those are mistakes that I definitely like. I think back, I'm like, man, that was so stupid. That was so reckless. Fighting in a bar out in public is absolutely ridiculous. It's driven by ego 100%. And I got in trouble at times, and I put unfortunately stress on my leadership's plate, and things that Seth had to navigate and work through, and Jocko had to work through, which I think back and I'm like, man, I feel so bad for the those things. Um, Instead of answering with like one specific thing, I think it would be like a tendency that I have, which I'm aware of, and I'm correcting and shifting. Um, but it's me being just too engaged and too hands on, not like too
mm,
engaged, but being hands on and not just letting my team run with stuff because I've always loved what I've done. I've loved in the SEAL teams. I actually, if you compare, the sales job that I did to the SEAL teams and what I do now, yeah, it's definitely not ranked up there as like cool and enjoyable. But I enjoyed that job. I enjoyed the challenge of sales. And when I was a sales manager, man, like I could have gone about that so many different ways. And I could have empowered my people way better. I should have empowered my people at a much higher level. Also, like just at echelon front, just stepping back and just letting Cody and the guys run with stuff. They are so smart. They're so capable. They're qualified. They're freaking rock stars, man. I have a bunch of sled dogs that are smart, that are hardworking, that care. They like to win. They want to win. Let them go. Just let them run with it. And for me, my natural tendency is doing the work, doing the work, doing the work with the guys because I like to work, but I also like being with my guys. And so for me, understanding, okay, how do I just boom, relinquish and think strategically more? Like I need to be better at thinking strategically more. So that is something that I've been working on and I will continue working on. And I look forward to just seeing those shifts.
Yeah, and I think you kinda answered the second part is, like, what did you learn from it? Because each one of those things, you've got some lessons and things that you've pulled stuff from. The the thing we've talked a lot about in the past, having the sled dog mentality, last week's episode was a lot about, like, doing more and figuring out, what are the things that we can do in our lives, in our organizations, wherever, in order that we can do more the best, right? I was preventing myself from saying do more better all this last week. But the truth is that's one of the things that we need to figure out. And when we look at the mistakes that we make in leadership, they often help us to do exactly that. So what I want you to walk me through is how do you evaluate your leadership mistakes so that you can pull lessons out of them instead of them being these things that kind of just like hang over you with, that just kind of put it like a cloud of like whether it's guilt or doubt or shame or whatever that you're like, that keeps you from going, oh, I absolutely suck at this. How do you look at those mistakes and evaluate them in such a way that it allows you to be better the next time and to do more, in the future?
I think that requires a mindset shift of you understanding, like, hey, I'm a flawed human. I'm not a perfect leader. I'm not a perfect husband. I'm not a perfect father. I'm not a perfect friend. Do I think I'm good at some of those things? Yeah. Do I know that I have room to improve in all of those things? Absolutely. And so, one, understand I've got room for improvement in all areas of my life. And I'll never improve if I'm not willing to do an honest self-assessment and be intentional with thinking, okay, hey, what can I be better at? The other thing is you need to have a good relationship with your people so that you can seek feedback from them. Now, getting feedback from your team in regards to what you have to work on and improve on as a leader is probably not going to happen. It doesn't matter how good the relationship is. The likelihood that your people give you candid feedback, direct feedback is extremely low. I have a few of those people in my life, and I'm thankful for those relationships. But getting that from all the people in your life is probably not going to happen. So you need to get it from your peers and you need to get it from your leadership. And you have to be open to it and you have to ask for it and you have to continuously ask for it and come at it with with a posture of humility and desire for direct feedback for your growth. But here's the thing: if you ask for it, you can't be offended. You can't push back. You can't, try to justify things on the back end and be like, well, okay, yeah, hey, I'm glad I got that information. But no, it's like the answer should be Roger that, absorb it, take it on board, show humility, and then start making changes. And then when you see positive, sorry, and then when you see those things being implemented causing positive growth, awesome, you're on the right path. And just keep doing those things. Also, be careful
That's
who you surround yourself with. If you surround yourself with a bunch of people that are always telling you how awesome you are and don't give you anything to work on, um, yeah, okay. Just know, like, hey, those might be great friends, good people to have in your corner, but they're not going to be the ones that are going to help you grow. You need to have people that are going to help you grow.
that kind of brings us to one of the last questions that we've got here. And then the person who asked this question sets it up in a couple of different ways. And I think that the biggest one, but the biggest part of this question is, and it has some to do with faith, but it's also philosophy, and so I'll hit you from that angle because that's it. So the question setup is this: weapons require proper training so that you don't hurt yourself or others.
Mhm.
All right. So there you go. That's the setup for the question. Uh,
Valid
the,
statement.
yeah, right. And so I'll ask the first part of the question this way: how do you prevent yourself from weaponizing the skill sets that we have as leaders or that we're developing as leaders against the people that we're leading?
Oh,
I'll just
yeah.
ask that as the broad question. I'll, kind of
No,
refine it as
I
we get
actually
more
have a
into some of that.
really simple response. And then we can elaborate if you want, or we just leave it as it is so that people don't try to manipulate and twist what we elaborate on.
Right.
When you're doing things for the betterment of the people and the team, that's leadership. When you're doing things for your betterment, that's manipulation. So if you're doing things or saying things, manipulating people for because of your ego, because you lack humility or whatever, that is manipulation. That is not leadership. You can't use a position, a title, your rank in a constructive manner. You lead people through relationships and influence. If you have to say, do this because I told you so, or if you have to bring up your title, your rank, your age, your experience over somebody, that is not leadership. That means that you don't have influence. You don't have a good, solid relationship with that person. Because if you did, you wouldn't have to state those things. You wouldn't have to say, hey, I've been doing this for so long, or hey, I've been blah, blah, blah. Like, you don't have to do those things. And there's people that do that. And we've all fallen into that trap. And that's ego. That's your ego coming up. And your ego is also, unfortunately, going to drive you to manipulate people. But if you're building good relationships with your people and you're being genuine and you're doing it for the right reasons and you have a solid relationship, therefore you have the ability to influence people, you can influence people to do things and to not do things, to say things and not say things. You can influence people to have more discipline in their life because of the example that you set instead of having to impose discipline upon them. Uh, This isn't on the same path, but it's connected to it. I want to read a text I got from a buddy, and I'm gonna shift some things in the text to protect this individual. Not protect him, but just out of respect for him. Um, so so one of my kids went out with a guy over the weekend. I didn't like my daughter's shirt choice. It wasn't awful or skanky, but the hem sat right at her belt line, and if she lifted her arms, her midsection was visible. Like, okay, not horrible, but not comfortable for me to go out with a guy I don't really know. And as I'm reading this, I'm like, valid. And where he goes is exactly where my brain went. And I'm like, all right, this is awesome. Um, so I began thinking back in text. So I began um, thinking through EO, extreme ownership, on how to address. Instead of saying, that's an inappropriate shirt, go change conversation, which a father could easily do, but we all know where that's going to go. And then he says, which would be getting into a debate over what's appropriate. I simply said, hey, that shirt, think about your date's obligation. If some jackleg at the bowling alley had a few drinks and makes comments about you if he sees your midriff, what's your date going to say or do? I know what I would have done at 18 if someone would have made those remarks to my date. This is a cover move opportunity for you to cover for him from having to even encounter that situation. She immediately understood. It wasn't a trick, it was actually applicable. It's real. So he influenced his daughter because of his relationship, the words that he chose for her to realize, oh, you know what? Yeah, it's not a horrible shirt. It's not inappropriate, but is it the best shirt that I should be wearing out and about?
Mhm.
Is there a possibility of putting this young man in a hard position, a bad situation where he has to now defend her honor or he has to say something or he gets into an altercation? And guess what? By her changing her shirt, that was now a lesser probability. It's very similar to what, I told Amanda when we first started dating. My wife is a smoke show. I outkicked my coverage by far. And, when we go out and about with our friends back when we first started dating, she was never doing anything inappropriate or, causing, problems or whatever. But I'd always, remind her, hey, if somebody is a jerk to you or he says something inappropriate to you, if you engage, I'm now committed to like disengagement. If you disengage, we can navigate, we can walk away, we can leave, obviously based off of like the level of inappropriate, like what goes on. But the likelihood of someone going straight to that is so low. But if you say something back and they say something, now I am absolutely engaged and the escalation, I don't want to. I would rather not. And again, Amanda was never causing those problems. I'm very lucky. I've been with girls in the past, women in the past, that it was like a straight up liberty risk the whole time you're out and about. You're just like, oh, what are they going to say? What are they going to do? What fight am I going to get in because she is not being polite to somebody? That's never been the case with Amanda. And we had to have this conversation with our daughters recently when they wanted to go thrifting and we're down in downtown Denton. And as you know, downtown Denton is just it's a dumpster fire. And there's some guy out on the corner with a very offensive sign, yelling things and blah blah blah. And Cora, she's our little jokester, and she's like, "Hey, what if I was to say this?" And I just was like, "Do not, don't you dare!" And Amanda looks at her and is like, "Do not put your dad in that situation because if you say that, even though it's a joke, and if he says something offensive towards you, you know what your dad's going to do." And Cora's like, I was just joking. I wasn't going to actually say that, but it was an opportunity for us to again remind the girls, hey, let's not create scenarios that could end in conflict. Let's avoid conflict. Let's be smart, have situational awareness. We're not on our phones, head down, walking around. And so life gives you the opportunity to train and teach all the time. And I love that my buddy use this as an opportunity just to teach his daughter how to think, not what to think. He could have said, hey, that's inappropriate. I'm not comfortable with it. Go change. And guess what she would have done? Yes, Dad, because she is a very respectful young lady. I mean, bro, if I could, based on what I know about her through her dad, if I could pick somebody for Aiden to date, winner, winner, chicken dinner. Like I'm telling you, man, she is a beautiful young woman that loves the Lord, graduated high school early, has just her head on her shoulders, is already started a business, is super respectful of her parents, has high morals. I mean, she is like an awesome young woman. So she would have said, okay, dad. Now she might have pushed back. She might have had some attitude. I don't know. I know my daughters would have a little bit of an attitude, but if they did push back, I would be like, hey, I could say, I said go change. And my daughters would go change. But guess what I just lost? Leadership capital with my daughters. Therefore, I lost a little bit of a relationship. I lost a little bit of influence. And I want to have influence over my daughters. I want to have a relationship with my daughters. It doesn't mean that I can't be their father. It just means I have greater influence because of a stronger relationship, because I don't have to say, hey, I'm your dad, go do that. If you have to say that, that's not the best thing. And if you're always saying that, that's not a good thing. Now, is there a time and place? As parents, we have to say, hey, go do this right now. We'll talk about it later. I believe so. There's times in the military that like leadership's gonna be like, hey, I need you guys to execute on this right now. We'll talk about it later, but hey, this needs to get done. And the bosses that I loved and respected, guess what my response was every single time?
Roger
Roger
that.
that. And was that ever withdrawal from them? No, because it was so rare. It was so rare that those good leaders like Seth, Jocko, Leif, Benny would ever do that. And if they did, I was like, oh, shoot, this must be really serious. Boom, I got you. But if they were doing that stuff all the time, it would be like, yeah, cool. All right, man. And then eventually you rebel. And if you're doing that with your kids all the time, they'll just rebel. I don't want my daughters rebelling. I don't want my sons rebelling. I want them to come to me for everything and for us to have conversations. And yeah, that's my goal. That's what winning looks like. And this guy, when it comes to the relationship with his wife and his daughter, bro, he sets a high standard.
Okay, so when we're influencing people, we realize we kind of hold manipulation in these two different positions, right? Like manipulation for the good of the team is a positive thing because it forces everybody to win.
And
Manipulation
that's not
that
manipulation. That's leadership. You're influencing,
r-
right?
right,
Influence versus
yeah,
manipulation. Same outcome, but different intent.
okay,
Influence is leadership. Manipulation is for your own good.
gotcha. Okay, so that's where we'll kind of make the semantic difference, right?
Yes.
So that people are there with us. So if if that's the case, when we're in a place where we have a lot of institutional knowledge, right? And whether it is institutional knowledge based off of, let's say, the job that we're in, right?
hmm
Where, especially if we're in a training position, maybe we have a lot of institutional knowledge when it comes to leadership. Maybe we have a lot of institutional knowledge when it comes to our faith or the Bible or those kinds of things, right? How do we prevent, like, if we're learning not to weaponize our leadership, that we're using influence and not manipulation, right? So we're not weaponizing the leadership. How do we prevent ourselves from weaponizing our knowledge in order to kind of keep people in in their place, or in such a way that like
Yeah.
we damage the people that we're leading? Because this is for me, this
Yeah.
is the trickiest part.
Okay. I think it's about education. So again, if you're educating people, you're giving them knowledge and you're teaching them how to think, not what to think. And that's by having open ended conversations, asking people questions, asking them what they think. How does that make them feel? Where does that apply? What do they think they could do better at? How can they better apply these things? And so, as a pastor, like you've done this with me, I've seen you do this with other people. You're extremely smart. Your biblical knowledge is extremely high, just like Chris Lerma, Pastor Chris, Pastor Tyrone, like Pastor Ethan. These guys never, and I'll talk about them instead of you because I know it'll make you uncomfortable. Like these guys never have said, "Hey man, I've been a pastor for over 20 years. You need to listen to me." Not once, bro. Not once. And their biblical knowledge is so, I mean, bro, it's so high. It's so high. Troy Foster, guys from Pursuit, like those guys have never been like, I've, Troy's like, like a guy I've talked to a lot about different prophetic things and discernment and biblical things. And not once has he said, "Hey, bro, this is what I know. You just need to shut up and do this." He'll be like, "Well, okay, what's your thoughts on that? Well, why do you think you're thinking this? Hey, let's walk through it. Hey, let's go back to scripture." And he'll bring me back to scripture and I'll be like, "Oh, okay, cool. You've done this with me where I've asked questions and I'm like, man, I know this is right and I know this is wrong, but man, I'm having a hard time connecting these things." And you've reminded me, hey, your heart is deceitful. Don't follow your heart. Let's go back to scripture. And I'm like, all right, you right. I know this, and that's dude, Tyron does that with me all the time. Pastor Chris Lerma, all the time. My buddy Titus, who stayed with us for a little bit, we would be talking about stuff and be like, cool, boom, let's go to the Bible. It was never, well, I went to Bible college, or well, hey, I've been reading the Bible for 40 years. I've never heard that from any of these people. It was all about them bringing me back to the source and helping me feel it and understand it on my own. That's education. That's leadership. That's teaching people how to think, not what to think. And when you're teaching people what to think, that's manipulation. When you teach people how to think through good sources, that's what leadership's all about. I think about what my grandmother used to do with us as kids. I got to see her the other week and it was amazing. She's 92 and we were still like talking about stuff and she'd bring up actual scriptures, not like, well, this is kind of what I'm thinking. No, this is what the Bible says. And I think like what my dad did when I was a kid, working on a job site with him, he would show me things, not just be like, "Hey, do that." He would show me, "Hey, this is how you do it. Hey, this is why you hammer a nail this way. This is why you want to hit this angle. When you hit this angle, this is what it's going to do. And hey, when you're doing this and you're tying off this, and this is why. And hey, this is why you want to use, you know, this type of a knot when you're tying down a load and all this stuff." Like he was really good at explaining those things to where now to the point it's like I can do things on my own and I'm like, "Oh, I know why those are done that way." And then instead of me just doing it, I can apply the knowledge. It's the same thing in the SEAL teams. Hey, when you're going into a building and this is the layout, this is what you do, this is what you don't do. Here's why. Let's run through both. Let's feel it. Let's experience it. I think the more you can teach people how to think and experience things on their own, that's going to have the best impact.
If you guys want to learn more about the exact stuff that JP was talking about, you need to go to echelonfront.com. If you haven't already picked up the books, Extreme Ownership, if you haven't looked at Dichotomy of Leadership, if you haven't looked at Leadership Strategy and Tactics, so many of the questions that we answered tonight, there are bits and pieces of those answers that are in all of those books. If you join the Extreme Ownership Academy online, you can be part of a live call that happens every Wednesday where we go over a leadership topic, and then there's an opportunity for Q&A with JP and the other instructors that are part of Echelon Front. And I got to say, man, leadership strategy and tactics is probably
Mhm.
the best of
Yes.
of the three because it's just right there. It's a desk reference. You know what? Hey, I'm having problems because I'm feeling, like the people below me aren't listening to me. I feel like there's a mutiny coming or something like that. You know what? Pull the book off the shelf, look it up. It's a field manual. It's not just something for you to read cover to cover. It's there for you to have every day to be used, take notes, highlight, all those kinds of things. The Need to Lead by Dave Burke. I'm so stoked about being able to pass that out now to a couple of friends of mine who just finished up Dichotomy of Leadership, and they're like, "Hey, what's the next step for me?" This is it. Need to Lead finishes up the trilogy as it stands right now. We talked a little bit about diet. How do you stay on the path whenever you're traveling? Those kinds of things. Go to firstinnutrition.com/jppod. Talk to Jonathan and Ann. You'll get 4 free weeks of nutrition coaching, and they're going to tell you exactly how you stay on the path whenever there are moments where you travel, whenever there's stuff that's going to make it complicated for you, because you know what? Maybe it's not going to be easy for me to get all of the things that I need this week. Maybe my macros are out of place right now where they're all out of whack and I don't know how much I should be having of what. Get some nutrition coaching. Get people who can help you day in and day out to be able to do those things. Jonathan and Ann are above and beyond able to get the job done. Then JP and I also belong to a ministry called Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu. And on April 18th in Dripping Springs, Texas, with Marcus and Lacey and Leif Babin at Stoic Jiu-Jitsu, we have a no-gi seminar with a guy some of y'all might have heard of. Dean Lister is going to be there
Yeah.
giving a free seminar. That is a no-gi seminar that's going to be on April 18th. So you'll go there, enjoy the free seminar, go pick up some Jocko Fuel. If you need to get some Jocko Fuel to get yourself right, go to jockofuel.com, use code JPPod20, save yourself 20%. Also, huge shout out to Jocko Fuel and to Origin for everything that they've done to support the podcast. And if you've seen it for the last couple of months, it's been making rounds. That blue RTX hoodie, it's been memed. It's almost back in stock. They're getting them ready to go. So make sure you go over to Origin and check those things out. And if you need apparel printing, go look at On the Path Printing. Link for that in the show notes. If you need to do some self-care, man, the tallow products at Little Cattle Co. are absolutely amazing. Check them out. And then finally, if you want to check out the gear that these guys used, the folks who wrote Extreme Ownership, JP, Jocko, Leif, JP talked about Matt Hasby, the gear that they used, the training that they had that kept them at the top of their game, not only to protect their nation, but now that they're back home to protect their families. Go check out Bruiser Arms. They've got custom gear packages and custom training that they'll put together, curate it for you so that you can be the best protector of your home and yourself that you can be. So really cool stuff. Check out all that stuff in the show notes. Thank you guys so much for liking, subscribing, for all your support. All the reviews and stuff you love, they're super encouraging for us. They help out the podcast a ton. So we're just in debt to y'all for all of that, and as well as some of the awesome questions that we got tonight. So thank you guys so much. Y'all are the best part of the JP Dinnell podcast and what we've got going on. So thanks a ton. JP, you got any final thoughts for us, man?
Yeah, one, I just want to echo your appreciation for our listeners. Do us a favor, share an episode, share the podcast. That's the more people we can reach, the greater impact we want to be able to reach through this podcast, through sharing lessons, sharing stories, sharing our faith, and just staying true to the reason why we started this podcast. So when you guys share these episodes on your stories and you add a link that people can click on it to YouTube or Spotify or iTunes and actually send it to somebody and tell them, hey, you got to check this out, subscribe it if you like, it helps us out. So we're very appreciative of that. And so my closing thoughts, um, on par with the theme of tonight is do an honest assessment. Do an honest assessment about the relationships with in your life and asking yourself, are you actually leading and influence people or are you manipulating people? And if you've been manipulating people, then just change. I know sometimes that happens in life. It wasn't intentional. Unfortunately, at times there are people that do that are being intentional, but you have a choice in regards to what you do. You have a choice to lead or you have a choice to manipulate. You have a choice to take ownership or you have a choice to play the victim card. Take ownership, lead, influence the people around you. And if you're just kind of frustrated with things in life, ask yourself. I remember hearing this question one time. If you're so smart, why aren't you winning? And if you pull the thread far enough, you can always bring it back to yourself. So I hope this episode has been a reminder to go do the work that's needed, to put in the effort, to build your legacy, and to never settle. This has been the JP Dinnell Podcast, episode 130.